paneer you're eating is absolutely safe? Is it a milk derivative in the first place? Are you sure the masala powder that you're buying doesn't contain microplastics? Welcome to Slow Fix Conversations. Today I am delving into this issue of adulteration and contamination in our foods with Ashwin Bhadri. He is the CEO of Equinox Labs. Now, Equinox Labs is India's largest food, water and air testing labs. They work with the government, with startups for food testing, labeling, for launching of food brands. So he's been at the forefront of this issue and how to solve this problem, how to get solutions for this problem. So let me just give you a little bit of a background, starting with some of the cases we've seen, some of the things that have been called out. So since May this year, the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, which is the FSSAI, they intensified a nationwide crackdown on restaurants, on food companies, and asked for daily reports, and a lot of contaminated products sort of got called out. That includes masala brands, that includes snacks, that includes restaurants which have been called out for unsanitary conditions. Even the Food and Drug Control Association, or the FDCA, they seized, to give you a concrete example, 3,000 kgs of unadulterated ghee in Gujarat. In May last year, Mumbai police seized some 2,000 kg of fake paneer. FSSAI recently inspected local restaurants in Hyderabad and found the restaurant staff had stored not only synthetic colors, food colors, raw foods, but there were rat droppings on the floor. We've heard these stories. After all, we are the country of the Delhi belly, right? But some of these findings, some of these things that have come out on our social media handle and news stories, they are much more dangerous. They are not just about a bad tummy. So I decided to delve into this issue with Ashwin Bhadri. He is really the best person to sort of give us the lowdown. What is the FSSAI? What kind of control do they really have? Is there enough manpower to do these checks, these violations, and what can we expect in the near future?
The idea was we wanted to serve two kinds of customers. The first customer was food companies, right? So a lot of the food companies coming up, they needed a lot of support. A lot of new companies were coming up. And the second industry was the corporate industry. Right. Which was actually being ignored because it was very nascent. Back then, 18 years ago, corporates were still coming up. Those big offices were still coming, right? So we played a very large role in the education of those offices. Right? Like tomorrow, I'm being invited to speak in one of the largest companies in the world about food safety, about safety, because they want their entire team to know this, right? So I'm speaking at Google because it's that important. They want like the expert. They're flying me down to Hyderabad just for that half an hour talk. I couldn't handle. They're like, no, please come in person, right? The idea is corporates are realizing how important this is, right? So in food, we do nutrition label, which is now mandatory by law. Shelf life, something called label validation, that is the label compliant to the law, which there's a lot of talk about nowadays that, hey, label Photo India kind of a thing. So is it compliant? Because FSSAI is a very young law. Okay? So the challenge with the young law is it's constantly changing. And the good thing about the young law is it can be constantly updated, right? We can bring it up to code very quickly. We don't have to wait for years and years, not decades, for the law to change. Since it's a young law, since there's a new regime, it's changing as required. So we're keeping up with the times, right? So we help food companies with these. These are, by the way, all mandatory things that a food company should do, right? Now, are all of them doing it? No. So we are also leading the charge on educating food companies, okay, what all do you need, right? Like today, for example, Equinox will talk a lot more about the regulations than even the regulators. So today, most people know a lot of the regulations they know today is because the effort we and people like us have taken rather than the regulation, because regulations are, hey, we have the regulation, now you come read and you figure it out. Right. Which is how most laws are, right? Like IT doesn't come to your house and tell you your tax regime, you've got to figure it out. Same way, FSSAI created a very good law, but the education of the industry was lacking, which is where we stepped in to kind of fill in that gap. right?
Right.
So today we work with almost close to about 80,000 customers across the country. And every year we help more than 5,000 food companies launch. So we are that most of the people who come to us are these food startups with some of them literally sit with me across with an idea in them and they don't have a product. They have an idea. 3 months later, 6 months later, we're helping them launch their product. So as a company, we go a little beyond the whole testing. We become like almost like an ecosystem for this, for startups, guiding them in how do you start businesses, how do you scale, how do you create websites. And this is all free advice. We don't charge them for this. Right? This is all advice we give them because we want them to succeed. Right? So we also have a community called Food Founder Ecosystem today, which has more than 1,000 food founders. Right now, just a simple WhatsApp group we started a couple of months ago. Already 1,000 food founders have joined, and each one helping each other out. Because see, a founder's journey is a very lonely one. And I realized that because I used to talk to a lot of founders, and when I used to ask them a simple question like, "How many other founders do you know?" You'd be surprised with the answer: 0, 1, 2. That's it. Those were the answers I got. Right. So I was like, there's something that needs to be done about this. On the testing side, this is all what we do. On the auditing side, we're one of the largest auditing agencies in the country. We have more than about 700 auditors pan-India. So whenever somebody wants to either audit their own kitchen, audit their factory, audit their vendor's factory, audit their customer wants to audit their vendors, all of this, we are the go-to company for that. And last but not the least, training. So there's a mandatory training by FSSAI called FOSTAC. So I'm one of the creators of FOSTAC when it was formed. And now we have trained, I think as a FOSTAC program, there are more than 20 lakh people who have been trained. They are one of the training partners, but as a FOSTAC program, which I think is one of the best public-private partnerships that the world has seen.
So Ashwin, even say maybe like a decade ago, nobody really bothered, right, about food labels. Like we know that there is some regulatory authority which has checked it and given an ISI mark or 1 mark, and we just consume. So now, would you say that even individuals, even just people who are buying food products, they are interested in knowing the details of the ingredients they're putting into their body? So would you say the awareness levels are much more, and is it restricted only to urban pockets?
So let me start by clearing a couple of myths around food safety and labels. Today, FSSAI grants a license to a food manufacturer to operate. They, at this moment, are not aware of what does your label look like. Let's say you make a product today, you make a biscuit, you put it a label, you put whatever information, you put it out in the market. FSSAI today has no control of it. They have given you guidelines. Hey, here are 38 things you can do and not do. That guidelines available on the website. How many founders actually go and check it out? Less than 1%, right? Many of them who are aware that, hey, one sec, if I'm printing something and there are some regulations I need to be aware of, they will come to somebody like Equinox. We will validate the label for them that, hey, if you're saying trans fat free, have you done this test? Oh, if you're claiming gluten free, have you done that test? Right? Because if you're claiming gluten free, you have to test for gluten. Just because I'm not adding gluten doesn't mean I can claim it gluten free, because some ingredient I'm using may have it. Right?
So the onus is on the company to ensure that
yes.
What they're putting out is good quality. So the government is not really regulating that.
Today, there is no bandwidth or mechanism for FSSAI to regulate what is going on every label in every product in every market, right? They just don't have the manpower, bandwidth, whatever you want to call it. So the best way to solve this problem, see, there are 2 ways to solve this problem. One is, every time you launch a product, we have to upload it to FSSAI website. Somebody will check it and approve it. While that may be ideal, today is just not possible. FSSAI doesn't have the bandwidth to do that. The only way they can do it is subcontracted to somebody else who has the bandwidth, right? So like how TCS stepped in for Aadhaar and for many others, third party will have to be stepping in. Either one or multiple third parties will have to step in to manage that workload. The second, which I feel is much easier, is educate the public. Hey, here is what your label should have. Here is what you should be looking at, right? Like if your product has these ingredients, it can't be 0 sugar, right? This contributes to sugar. If somebody is saying sugar-free, but has sugar, so sugar-free is not the right word. You can say no added sugar. Oh, there is natural sugar present. I have not added any sugar, right? So there are 3 parties to be involved. One is obviously the regulation. then is the industry, and then are the consumers, right? Today, the industry has a lot of onus on them, but unfortunately, they are not regulated enough, and two, they're not educated enough. Now, I can't regulate them, I can educate them. That's what we do, right? We hold a lot of free seminars. Every month, we are holding free seminars, free, because we want more and more people to come. The minute you charge, some people back home, right? Where we are just educating food companies on, okay, hey, here are the mandatory things you need to do. And if you're claiming this, please go do this test. If you're saying this, it better be this way. If you're doing this, this is what you need to follow. And especially things go wrong when people start making claims. People will show a cow, but there is no milk in the thing, because today cow is associated with milk. So you can't be using artificial something, or you can't show a date but have no dates in it. And things that you can't say contains added fruit, but the fruit is like 1.1%. Right? So there are some basics which have, which get violated because there is not enough enforcement and there is not enough education. Right? Now, the third is the consumer. Now, the consumer, the more aware consumer, will ask for better information, will seek clarity. They will reach out to brands, they will turn the pack and see, and market will correct itself. For example, if I buy a protein bar, right, and I see 15 ingredients, half of which I can't read, most likely they're chemical ingredients. But if I turn the protein bar and I can see 40% whey protein, 20% dates, 30% this, the 6 ingredients, I can read all the 6 ingredients. I know that is much more healthier for my body than something that has 8 ingredients I can't even pronounce, right? Or it has some numbers, like E56. Who the hell knows what E56 is, right? So a lot of these old regulations where you can use E numbers, I think, that has now become outdated because people want to know, hey, what is E256, right? Because who has the time today to Google what is E256? Nobody has that, right? So I have a very strong feeling in the next year or two, E numbers should become archaic. If you have an ingredient, you should call it out, right? So clean labels are the new trend. While it is a trend, I think in the next 5 years, it's almost going to be mandatory. May not be by law, but if you want to cater to a certain audience, you'll have to make it. It will become an industry standard rather than law saying, hey, you have to do it. It will become industry standard. That being said, the difference between urban and rural India today is urban India has been looking at labels a lot longer than rural because rural didn't have labels. Sorry. Right? So now at least what we're seeing is rural labels are coming up. Since labels are coming up, people are going to look at it. But see, the India we live in has multi-tier, right? While in tier 1 cities, we can talk about better claims, cleaner ingredients, blah, blah, blah. There is a very simple economic game that we have to play at a larger nation level, which is rupees per calorie. For every 100 calories, what is the cost of 100 calories?
Wow,
right?
That's a radical concept, yeah.
Because end of the day, at one end, we also have starvation, we have malnutrition. And when you're facing malnutrition, you don't care ki I'm going to, and person can't afford to spend 10 rupees more for a cleaner product. They want energy, they want fat, they want protein. While they may not even know that's what they want, they possibly look at, oh, I eat this and I feel fuller faster. I feel fuller faster, cheaper, right? So while there is an India that focuses on that, there is another India that focuses on, oh, we want clean labels, we want to look at. So there are these two different Indias. So we cannot paint this whole India with the same paintbrush. You can't mandatory make it that every single product has to have only this protein and this fat and all. It's not going to work.
It's not possible for anything in India. We live in so many, simultaneously in so many different realities. So, right? Yeah. So Ashwin, have you had individuals coming to you to check? Because I know, I am a cancer survivor. So I remember at the time, 7 years ago, we were very, very worried about what we were putting in our mouths, like in my food. So after a point, I just gave up anything that was packaged. Okay. So have you had families, individuals coming in to you to check?
A lot of them, because there should be a lot of mistrust. There is a lot of mistrust. A lot of people have come to check their oil. A lot of people have come to check even things like Ayurvedic powders.
Yeah.
Hey, my mother is having this. She's feeling better, but I read somewhere that, Ayurvedic powders can have mercury or heavy metals. Can you please test for it? Hey, I'm using oil from this specific vendor, right? Can you check if it's good quality? Milk is, by the way, one of the most tested products because at one point in time, India had one of the highest milk adulteration rates in the world. It was 20%. That's 1 in 5 glasses was adulterated. That is ridiculous because milk is something that touches a baby, infant, to the oldest person in the country, right? Everybody has milk in some form or the other. And the good thing, however, also is that FSSAI will penalize milk adulterators to the highest extent. That being said, how many people are in jail today because of FSSAI? There is a law, there is a provision, right? So let me give you some context of what was before FSSAI and what FSSAI is. Before FSSAI, there was a law called PFA, Prevention of Food Adulteration. The concept of food safety did not exist, right? It was prevention of food adulteration. This is an archaic law that has been there from the Britishers' time, which was formed, was still continuing. When FSSAI was born, PFA was abolished. Under PFA, the penalties used to be 100 rupees, 500 rupees, 1,000 rupees. It was a joke, right? Under FSSAI, it had some teeth. The penalty started off at 10,000 going to 10 lakhs and jail time starting off of 6 months going to, I think, 5 years or more. I was very hopeful to see that because I'm like, now people will take this a lot more serious. Adulteration will become lesser. Today, we catch all these adulteration cases, but none of them really reach prosecution or I'm not saying people go to jail. I'm not saying everyone should, but if they start doing that, then people will take it a lot more serious, right? Today, adulteration is rampant. There is a rampant problem because people are not checking enough. Like some city will check once and it becomes national news. Like, oh my God, Kochi checked and look what they found. But that is what should be happening every single day. If you want food safety to get better, the inspectors need to be doing a much, much better job, right? By the way, the entire inspection thing can also be outsourced. You can have third parties who are contracted. FSSAI can randomize. By the way, FSSAI has these provisions already. There are third-party auditing agencies which have been authorized, but it's only for a very 0.1% of the licenses in the country are mandated to do it. So if you have a high-risk facility, let's say you're manufacturing milk, meat products, then there is a mandatory audit that you have to get done from third parties, right? I feel that that's a lot more, what is the right word? Accurate, because the chance of you manipulating a private third party is a lot lesser than a government official. I'm not going to spell out what I'm talking about, but I think you and I both understand this, right? I remember about 10 years ago, I was at a conference in Hyderabad, and the then CEO of FSSAI was sitting on my table. I had the privilege of having a lunch. So I brought up he was talking to me about ground level challenges and what we are facing because we were leading the charge that time. So he's like, of course, I've heard of you guys, all that. So after all that, I'm like, boss, you and I know where the problem is. Enforcement needs to be better, right? And people who are taking bribes, they need to go to jail. I mean, something has to happen. They need to be fired. Something has to happen. His response was, and it shocked me, and please don't quote me on this. He said that, Ashwin, I am aware what is happening. He's like, I'm very well aware what happens at ground level, state level, what is happening. If I suspend the guy, or if I put a case, he gets suspended. Now, if he gets suspended, he gets half pay throughout the suspension, right? It will take 6 months, 9 months, 1 year for the inquiry to come up with some result. Now, this result also is managed. The guy will go, whoever the officer is, give him whatever. And now, a year later, this guy gets a clean sheet. Now, because he's gotten a clean sheet, the government gives him the entire year's salary. I wasn't aware of this. So he's like, if I suspend somebody, it's as good as giving him a year-long paid leave. And I was like, what kind of, this is a very stupid mechanism to have in the country, right? Like, what the hell is this? This is why we are far behind in so many cases because of shit like this, right? In US, do you see a state trooper who pulls you over? Can you bribe him to get out of a ticket? There's no chance in hell, right? I'm not saying scandals don't happen. In US, a scandal happened, $100 million, $1 billion Watergate, this, that. Scandals happen. They're at a much bigger level. They're a lot fewer. Maybe the volume is much bigger also, but they're a lot fewer. But ground level enforcement has to be a lot stringent.
So before I go into actually just giving me the guide how to do it, I just wanted to ask you just one thing before that. Why do you think in this, the last few months, we are seeing this slew of new sort of revelations about our food products, the masala packet, to medicines, to gutka, to suddenly we are seeing, so what is the reason behind that?
I think regulation today is being taken a little for granted, right? If you remember, the last time FSSAI really came down with iron fist was during Maggie. And then maybe a couple of times after that, right? But the minute they did that, the entire industry fell in line because they're like, crap, something can, I mean, obviously that news was given to the news agencies by FSSAI that, hey, this is what's happening with Nestle and so on and so forth, right? The minute that happened, every other manufacturer in the country was like, hey, this can't happen to us. What do we need to do? Get testing done, get the audits done. We were flooded with queries because they're like, this can't happen to us. What do we need to do? Tell us what we need to do. Right? Suddenly the country woke up, the food industry woke up saying, oh my God, if a giant can be shaken up, who the hell are we? We will not survive. See, Nestle survived, but Nestle is a giant. This was a scratch for them. For somebody else, it can be the death blow.
Yeah.
Right? There are things that FSSAI needs to create examples, create cases, but two, there also needs to be a consistent pressure, consistent checking that happens in the country to ensure that people know that there's somebody watching. See, I'll tell you the very big issue in FSSAI, the way it is constructed. The first line of the regulation says, this is regulation, you as a food manufacturer have to follow. It's not up to FSSAI to enforce.
Yeah.
You have to follow the regulation. This is the 600-page book, you have to follow. You figure out what you have to follow, you have to follow this.
Yeah.
Right? It starts with that. Two, you need a lot more inspections, you need a lot more manpower that is required. See, I'm a national advisor to FSSAI, so I know the inside story as well. It's not that FSSAI is bad or anything, they just don't have people. Like, I'll give an example of Mumbai. Today, Mumbai has X amount of officers. You require 30X to be able to cater to this industry. The size of Mumbai and the number of food companies here, 30X, right? Today, think of a very simple scenario. I'm starting a new business, food business, right? I'm starting from my kitchen, or I've taken a small unit, 200-300 square foot. I'm starting from there. Isn't it logical that before I'm given a license, somebody comes and checks it? Like, will you get an NOC for a building without fire, without this? Somebody comes physically, checks it. Shouldn't the same thing happen to food? Now, today, there's a lot of leeway given because there is no one to check, which is what I've been also pushing for with FSSAI. That can be privatized. There are some things that can be privatized because you just don't have the infra. Two, if you're starting a food business and now you have to pay a 2,000 rupee inspection fee, or wait for 6 months for the officer to show up for free, which one will you choose?
Yeah, the person.
You'll choose the 2,000 rupee and just get started. Right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to tell everyone, because there is some evidence of what is being set up. There is some guideline that is being sent to the person that, hey, what are you setting? Oh, we're setting a small bakery. Lovely. Here is a guideline. You don't need to read a 600-page book. These are 10 pages you need to follow. Out of it, here's a checklist that you need to have. See, that is where we are slowly going to graduate to, right? Now, FSSAI, I mean, while I'm a national advisor, I can't control a lot of the actions because I can only advise from outside. What we are doing is we are creating this infra where if somebody comes to us in the next month, we are launching something as simple as, if you're a bakery, what size, what products, here are 15 things you need to start now. Don't worry about 600 pages. Here are 15 things you need to start now. Here are 25 things you need to do in the next 2 months. Here are something you need to do in the next 6 months, giving you a baby step guide to compliance. Right? Because when
how come it's coming out now, so much of it? Is it just social media or?
So a lot of the awareness which is coming out is because of social media. See, social media is amplifying, right? Today, a food farmer is famous because he took his cause, he took it to social media. It was a latent need that, blew up, and people are like, hey, we want to know. And he's having a fantastic impact because now brands are actually now being called out. Yeah. By the way, they are not doing this because of food farmers. They're doing it because of their customer pressure. Now, suddenly it's being called out that, oh, XY brand has extra sugar.
Because FSSAI itself is putting out things, that this is contaminated, that is contaminated. So suddenly we are seeing a lot of activity, starting with like the masalas that came back from Hong Kong, right?
So there are 2-3 things that we as a country need to do. One is we need to, our enforcement needs to be better, right? Two, today we have a fantastic testing infrastructure. The number of labs that we have which are accredited is quite large. From what I understand, from yesterday's budget, I think there are about 100 or 150 new labs budget the government has given FSSAI to set up, either they can set up or privatize it, either way. But I think a budget has been allocated to set up maybe in most tier 2 cities, remote cities, because I think the tier 1s is adequate coverage. For example, now today we cater to 500 cities. We have labs in 6, but we get samples, we collect samples and get samples from 500 plus cities. Not all, they're not covering all pin codes, just because logistically it just becomes expensive, right? So while we are doing what we can, but there's a lot of opportunities. That's why whenever I look at this, I don't look at this as, oh, that lab is my competitor. He's my collaborator. How can we do something together? Like yesterday, I'm talking to somebody. I was like, hey, I don't have a reach in Uttar Pradesh. I don't have a reach in, Bihar. What can we do? We are good at education. You have a physical facility. What can we do together, right? So one is setting up infra. Second one was a law. Third is there has to be significant investment in awareness. Today, a food farmer is doing it, and a bunch of people are doing awareness at whatever scale that they can. Some of it is sensationalized, some of it is structured, right? You need both. You sometimes need the sensation to create that, oh my God, awareness. And then if somebody wants to know more about it, then you need a little bit more structured program, right? So for example, Revant does a great job on the sensation side. He has a great job on impact. We are able to now, we don't do sensations. Even either we know a lot of this because we do the testing. So we know what happens. Right? Yeah. However, that's confidential information. So I can't call out a brand and say, hey, you didn't do this, because we know what happened behind the scenes, but they are a laboratory. We have to stay within our lane. But our lane still has education. Right? So more structured education for people who want to go ahead and make a change. We are there to kind of guide them. We do a lot of free. We are also now moving to paid because we want to do it more. And when it is paid, a lot more serious people show up. So the basic awareness sessions, we are going to do a lot more free of, but we're also now starting more paid sessions so that people are aware. So the enforcement, infra, and awareness, I think if these three things are put in play, so India has a superpower in food.
Right. So I think in our cities, another thing, before I forget it, is the organic food market, right? Would you say that is a very stringently quality controlled space compared to regular products?
It is a quality control space. I will not use the word stringent, right? There are accreditations around it. However, every batch can't be tested. It's just not affordable, right? Is it as stringently followed today? If somebody just decides to put the word organic in front of their product.
Yeah. Should we trust it?
Now, that is where a brand comes in. See, today a brand creates that trust factor. For example, tomorrow if Whole Truth comes out saying, hey, this is organic biscuit, example, I will not doubt it because I trust the brand Whole Truth. But tomorrow XYZ just say, oh, this is organic biscuit. I'm like, what, really? Like, how did we make? I mean, I'll have a lot of questions, right? Because
say in India, Nature's Basket. If they tell you that we are selling you organic millets.
So if Nature's Basket says organic, now there is some trust that builds it.
Yeah.
Right? Now you go to a normal Kirana store and there's something kept in a Ziploc bag which says organic something.
Yeah.
You're going to naturally doubt it, right? This comes because the enforcement is not as high. Once enforcement becomes higher, all the fake products will go out. Like, for example, today morning I was reading somebody fell ill because the guy consumed fake Bisleri water at a train station. It's, by the way, spelled wrong. Bisleri. It's literally said Bisleri, but it looks like a Bisleri bottle. Right? The guy had it, is hospitalized. He's fighting for his life, right? Now, this has to stop. Now, this can only be stopped two ways: harsh enforcement, and two, public awareness, right? Now, a brand like Bisleri, now, is it their fault that there's a fake in the market? No, I mean, what can they do? There's nothing they can do, right? They are doing a good job. They are doing what they're supposed to do. Somebody creates a fake. This is where the legal mechanism of the country has to step in, saying, hey, you can't create fake products, you can't be doing this. Only this will happen, and when we find this out, people who have done this need to go behind bars. There is no two ways about it.
So let me finally come to the guide. So Equinox, so correct me if I'm wrong. So there are three categories where you test: food, water, air, right? So let's take, like, say, 3 products like that. Supposing I come to you with a product, say nutrition bars, a nutrition bar, and I come to you to tell you, like, show me how to read the label of this. And how do I know that it's a good product? It's a healthy product for me. So what will you say?
Got it. So there are two things you need to look at. If you're just looking at the bar, now as a consumer, if you're looking at that bar, right, you definitely want to see what are the top 3 ingredients in that. Because what you're supposed to do, a brand is supposed to do, is they're supposed to list those ingredients in descending order. They're supposed to put the most used ingredient on top, then the second one, then the third one. They're not.
Is that a guideline?
That is a guide.
Okay.
That is a mandate by FSSAI.
Okay.
Is there somebody checking it? No. Is it mandatory by law? Yes. So if a brand is proper, and see today a lot of startups which are creating a national presence will not risk doing this wrong, because if they get called out, they will not survive. See, they are not Nestle. They're not going to be able to take a blow of that size. Right? If something happens, boom, they're gone. 3 months later, the brand will disappear. So first thing I will look at is what are the top 3 ingredients. The second thing I'll look at within the ingredient section itself is, can I pronounce all these ingredients? If I can pronounce all the ingredients, it is healthier, right? Now, if you want longer shelf life, people will have to add preservatives, right? If you want the bar to look nicer, they will have to add stabilizers, coloring agents, and so on and so forth. Now, as an individual, you have to decide how much of it is good for me, how much of it is bad. For example, if somebody's on a, they're watching what they eat, but once in a while, they will have a chole bhature. Yes, the calories are more. Yeah, but you work it off next day. See, it's a known risk. That once in a while, I want to indulge, right? Which is fine. So you can indulge. And if you're consuming that product on a daily basis, you definitely want to make sure that it's as natural as possible, right? Then the next thing you want to look at is the nutrition label. What is the energy? What is the protein, carbs, and fat? Right? Now, these 4 or 5 things are mandatory. There's salt, sugar, which are mandatory.
Energy? What is energy?
Energy now, it depends on what you want that bar to do for you. Now, for example, I have a protein bar every morning, right? 20 grams of protein because I want protein. Now, if I'm focused on protein, means I'm also at this other side looking at lesser energy, lesser carbs. I don't want to load up.
Energy basically is carbs.
No, energy is a mixture of carbs, protein, and fat. So the way energy is calculated, see, there is no test for energy.
Yeah.
Energy is a calculation. The way it is done is you first find out fats, protein, and carb. Multiply whatever fat result you have with 9, protein with 4, carbohydrate with 4, add those up. That's how you get energy.
Energy. Okay. Yeah.
So typically something that is high on protein will be low on carb, low on fat, which will keep the energy at minimum. But if I have something that's high on protein and high on fat, suddenly this thing will spike.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, if it's high on carbs, high on sugar, again, there'll be a sugar glucose spike. It also depends on how nutrition conscious you are. Like, for example, I'm somebody who works out 5-6 days a week. I play 2-3 sports. Right, 2-3 days a week I play a sport. So I'm a lot more conscious of it. Now, some person may not be, which is perfectly fine. I wasn't. Hell, for last 40 years I wasn't. Right, in the last couple of years I've suddenly become more conscious.
Yeah.
Right. So it depends.
And even for somebody who's probably not as active or exercising, but just to be able to screen something that's harmful for you to just come to your body. Right. It's basic health for elderly, for children, especially, So,
for example, is it bad to eat a packet of chips? If you have it once in a week or once in 2 weeks, it's fine. Even if it's as unhealthy as it gets, it's okay. If you're having 1 packet a day, now suddenly it matters what kind of chips are you having, right? Are there soya chips? Are there this chips? How much sugar is there? How much fat is there? How much oil is there? All of this starts mattering, right? See, once in a while, if you're unhealthy, it's fine.
Yeah.
Every day, if you're unhealthy, now you have to be then very conscious of what you're putting in your body, right? So if somebody drinks once in 2 weeks or once a month, it has a peg or two, it's fine, nothing's going to go wrong. If you're drinking every day and you drink 2-3 pegs a day, now suddenly it becomes a habit, it becomes a problem for your body. Anything in excess, even good things, by the way, like drinking too much water, like you should not have 6, 7, 8 liters of water a day. It's actually bad. Like 2 to 3 liters is the spot, where max 4 liters, because it has other issues in your body which most people don't even know. Do you know drinking too much water can increase cranial pressure?
Yeah. Minerals go from your body and electrolytes.
But when you take the minerals in your body, where is that water going to go? It's going to go into your bloodstream. It's going to actually start pressurizing your brain, which is a very weird thing for somebody who drinks too much water.
Yeah.
Right? So staying between your 2 to 4 liters a day is actually, so anything in excess.
Yeah. So let me come to water now.
Yes.
How does one judge water? Like it's you obviously in India you go out. If you're out, I think it's a routine thing that everybody picks up a Bisleri. Nobody drinks tap water anymore.
Correct. So you have to choose between what kind of water do you want, right? See, now if you're on the street, you're going to pick up a Aquafina
Bisleri bottle, yeah.
right? Now, if you're out at a fancy dinner,
Hmm.
you may want to go for mountain water, spring water, right? So understand the difference in the two. There's no right or wrong to select.
Yeah.
Something like a Bisleri, something like an Aquafina, basically bottled water, right? Which carries a mark of ISI, this thing, IS 14543, which is called packaged drinking water. This is highly processed water, which is pure, as pure as it can be. For
So
example,
the processing basically gets rid of all the contamination in the water.
contamination, everything goes.
Yeah.
The minerals are sometimes reintroduced back because see, when you're cleaning everything, you can't be like, oh, everything got what the minerals name. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because when we go through RO, everything, right? Then you have to bring it back so you can add back minerals to kind of maintain the balance.
Right.
For example, Aquafina is so pure, you can actually inject it as IV in case of an emergency. It's that pure, right? Aquafina, I'm not saying all bottled water. Aquafina, the reason we know is we've tested it, we've built plants for it in the past. In a past life, I've built plants for it. So I know the purity of Aquafina, right? But there are a lot of newer ones, so as soon as you go to mineral water, natural mineral water, spring water, it has lesser and lesser and lesser process. So then you have to trust the brand that, hey, they're a good enough job to monitor quality. Because many people are like, oh, it's a mountain melt. Great. But who's checking that patch? Like, you don't know the mountain you don't know what mountain melt means, what the hell you're getting. So the quality control in less purified water, which are more natural sources, has to be higher. Right? See, mandate, the law will say once a month, once in 6 months. Karo. When I'm consulting a brand, I will do every batch. It's a little more expensive, but see, again, natural mineral water is expensive.
Right.
Not 20 rupees a bottle, 30 rupees a bottle. 100, 200, 400 bucks a bottle. Yes, you can spend an extra, let's say 2,000 a batch, 5,000 rupees a batch to make sure it is proper because people are, you're not treating it. So if you're not treating it, it better pass, right? So those extra quality controls have to come into play. So if you are going and having water, I would normally have packaged water because I have no ever doubt what, because we know what kind of controls go behind it. But yeah, you're indulgent, you want to try out something new, you have natural mineral water. And some people love natural mineral water. That's all that they have.
Yeah.
It has a lot more salts. By the way, it's supposedly a lot more healthier.
Which one? The natural spring water, natural mineral water.
It's supposed to be healthier because the TDS is higher. There are more dissolved solids in it.
Right.
There are minerals in it, right? So it is supposed to be healthier. But
a bottle of Aquafina won't have the contamination at all. It's highly processed, so it's safe, basically.
It is safe.
It is
100%.
safe.
100%. Yes.
When it comes to air, that's a really complex thing, and we are all sort of kind of in this toxic air kind of a scenario, right? So how does it work, the air quality? And the common person really, I don't have any control over the air I breathe.
Yes, and so let me explain that to you in a second. So the way air testing happens, we do two kinds of air testing. One is indoor air quality. There you're breathing right now at your home and offices. So we're one of the largest in the country for that. And outdoor air. The reason outdoor air, whenever we do offices, and most of the offices we come to because we just have that omnipresence there. We are present in all major metros and so on and so forth. So we are able to service the customer much faster. Every time we do indoor, we always do outdoor. We almost insist that you have to do outdoor. If the customer doesn't order, we will guide them at least one sample outdoor karo.
So the surrounding area. Okay.
Because air, your outdoor affects it.
Yeah.
If you don't know what outdoor is, indoor will be okay now, but outdoor is bad, then you will have to revisit your cleaning systems to see how good they're working, because tomorrow very quickly your indoor can get bad as well, right? We look for about 13 odd parameters. See, the harmful one. See, while we test for hydrogen sulfide and a lot of other, volatile organic compounds and all, the one that matters most to you and me at home are particulate matter. Sorry, particle matter. Dust.
Particle matter. Okay.
Particulate matter. Now, particulate matter typically it has multiple sizes. So PM stands for particulate matter. 10 stands for the size of the particle, right? microns. So it's 10 microns, 2.5 microns. So when we test air, we test for PM10, PM2.5, and in very, very advanced cases, we even go down to PM1, which is, but again, so 10 is typically the reason we test for 10 and 2.5 and not above that. We can always test for PM20, PM50. Air conditioning and natural human cleaning systems will remove particles which are PM20 and above. It's PM10 and PM2.5 that if they make it through the normal systems, your body defenses will not stop it and they go inside. Now, the problem with this is there is no reverse function in your lung. See, if you eat something off, your body will throw it out one way or the other. It detects that something is wrong, one way or other, it will come out fast. Yes, you'll get loosey, you'll vomit. Something will happen. Your body has a mechanism to throw it out. Lung doesn't. Yes, you may cough a little, you may do something, but the particles which have gone inside and stay there, they're like little particles, they literally stay there, right? Hence, if you ever see a smoker's lung, what is smoking? You're basically inhaling thousands of particles at one go, right? Millions, if not thousands, at one go, which go into your lung. So when you cut open a smoker's lung, you'll see it all black. And what is that black? It's not rotted lung. It's basically these particles that are kind of covered, because of which the more particles go inside, the lesser efficiently you can breathe, because the surface area is now reducing significantly every single day, right? So asthma and a lot of other issues happen because these particles go and they get lodged in your lung and there's no reverse function of it, right? So earlier you said, oh, I don't have any control over the air I breathe. Do you have control over the air you breathe while you're on the street? No. Do you have control over the air you breathe in your house? Yes. Do you have control over the air you breathe in your office? Yes. You can put air purifier. It's like saying, oh, I don't have control over the water I drink. Yes, you do have control over the water you drink. Yeah. Right? You have a Bisleri Aquafina, whatever, when you're on the street, or you can carry your water from home, right? If you're at a restaurant, again, purified water is available. Same way at home, you can put an air purifier.
Yeah.
In your office.
When you're testing, when you're testing air in, say, any sort of locality in, say, Bombay, any suburb, Bandra, or anywhere in, you're testing for an office.
Yeah.
So how common is it in your experience to see like a lot of toxic stuff?
So when we see outside, it can be higher. When it's inside, it's not that high. But that sample is biased. And I'll tell you why. Who is doing this testing? Corporates. Corporates who have already put filters in their system. They are just ensuring that my filters are working on.
Right.
See, to spend money on air testing, because see, there's no law for testing air.
Right.
There's no mandate that, oh, you're supposed to test your air. Right? There's mandate for water, there's mandate for food, there's no mandate for air. Yeah. Right? But if companies spending money on testing air, that means they're already doing air treatment. Hence, I'm calling it a bias sample, because it's already being treated. Now, if your house, which has no treatment, is tested, the number could be a little higher. But hey, same thing, you put a machine in place and then you test it 2 weeks later, it is going to be lower. For example, I have a machine sitting right here. I have another one in office. In all my homes, I have a machine, because I know I can't otherwise control air quality. Right? The minute I open a window, something dust is going to come and all things are going to come. For example, the place I'm working at now is sealed. That the windows just don't open because it's my office space. It's my home office, but it's open at the center flat is my home office. Windows don't open. Why? I don't want, I mean, I get enough fresh air. I'm okay. I don't feel uncomfortable if I'm in a closed room for 8 hours. I'm fine. If I need, I'll go for
because of the air purifier. Yeah.
Air purifier. So right now my air quality is in green. It's in single digit. This because the room is kept. See, the minute I open the door, minute I keep my main door open, I keep my windows open, that number is going to spike. It'll go to yellow, it'll go to red, because now it's getting everything is coming from outside. Right? It's always cheaper and better to keep, not better, it's always cheaper to keep clean air clean. The minute you introduce a lot of fresh air, it brings in problems with it. Now, this is okay when I'm talking about a small room like this. This problem compounds 1,000 times when you talk about a large office building. Imagine now a 5 lakh, 10 lakh square foot office building. There are some pockets of air which will never see fresh air unless the ventilation brings in fresh. The forced ventilation, right? Not natural ventilation. Because now, if you go to a corporate office, there will be one room which is at least 20 doors away. Some conference room, something, it's 20 doors away from your main door. So the only way that's ever going to get fresh air if it comes in through the duct. Now, a challenge that corporates face, the companies face, a facility management specific space is electricity cost. Because the minute I bring in outside air is hot. It is cheaper to keep cold air cold, and it's more expensive to cool down hot air from outside.
Right.
Many a times corporates, they will shut off fresh air intake. They'll open it 2%, 5%. At times, again, they shut it off. Because the minute they open it, they will see their energy bill rising. The minute they close it, they'll see it kind of decreasing or leveling out. Right? So these are the challenges they face. So they have to find a fine balance between both cost and quality. Right? So on air, that's what you can.
All right. I think this was really informative, Ashwin. This is going to help so many people. These are very common questions and you don't really get an expert to answer them. So thank you so much for your time, Ashwin.